Dayton officials are expecting to sell over 10,000 season tickets again this season, which means new head coach Archie Miller will get to enjoy a lot of the same great crowds here at UD Arena that all of his predecessors have. We've seen what a new stadium and clever marketing can do for a modern team like the Dayton Dragons. But what about at a place like here, Municipal Stadium, where in the 40s and the 50s, this was the home of the Springfield Giants? Well, these two Central Buckeye Conference rivals played the kind of close and intense game today that you would expect. It was just 3 weeks ago when Urbana beat Tippecanoe. The Dragons' record sellout streak continues tonight and will continue through the end of the season. But for the first time in their 12 seasons, the Dragons figure to make the playoffs. Well, the problem with that could be that playoff tickets are not on the season ticket plan, so the sellout streak could be in jeopardy. Wayne and Northmont have become victims of their own success. They never get to open a high school football season at home. That's why this Friday night they'll be here at Welcome Stadium playing in the Crosstown Showdown doubleheader. Last year, the Springfield Wildcats went to the state playoffs under the leadership of All-American linebacker Trey DePriest and head coach Rick Robertson. But this year, DePriest has gone to play at Alabama and Robertson has gone to coach at Oakwood. And looking back to Wednesday in the first inning when Tippecanoe took a 2-0 lead, Urbana coach Kevin Gary said he felt like his team just came out tight and Tipp was able to respond and take advantage of that. Shamar Bailey has an ultimate goal, world champion mixed martial arts fighter. His role on season 13 of the Ultimate Fighter TV show was his first big break. The next one, he signed a contract with Ultimate Fighting Championship and won his UFC debut. One of Bailey's biggest fans is his pastor.
Everyone loves a guy, right, who dreams a bigger dream and it doesn't mind, some of the pain along the way.
My own goal with the sport is just to be the best that I can possibly be and develop the talents that God's given me to the best of my ability. Obviously, that would culminate in being world champion.
All fighters want the title belt, but it's evident to Pastor Steve Jakowski that Shamar wants more from life.
He's a Christ follower, and I think he wants to live out his faith, and I think he's not ashamed of that. I think he's authentic. The Shamar you see on TV is kind of the Shamar you see in private.
Shamar spent 6 weeks living and training with other fighters on The Ultimate Fighter, and his lifestyle was on display.
Everybody else in the household, even, they're all more concerned with, it's all about me, so if I'm making somebody else uncomfortable, it's no big deal. Whereas I think he tried to stay true to the, being a friend when needed to be, talking to people when needed to.
Being a Christian in the house was not as big of a deal as I thought it might be. A lot of guys were real open to it. Once they saw, that I was pretty much down to earth and that my faith kind of transcends into my fighting and everything else I do in life, we had a lot of good conversations.
Shamar has also been inside burning houses. He works full-time for the Indianapolis Fire Department.
You've been trained to do a job and you have to do it right for the sake of your survival and other people's survival, and the same thing in the cage. You've been trained to do a job and you have to do it right.
If success ever goes to Shamar's head, he'll have another fight on his hands.
I'll definitely beat him up if I think he's gotten too big for his britches. I say that metaphorically.
That's Shamar Bailey, a man who fights in the cage, a man who fights fires, and a man who fights to live out his faith. For IUPUI Sports, I'm Jeff Gilbert. Compliance is the buzzword for following NCAA rules, and Cedarville University is discovering what that means to its alumni, boosters, and faculty. The small Christian school is leaving the NAIA for NCAA Division II this year.
The biggest challenge with compliance is we want to do things the right way, and we want to do it well, and doing that to an audience that's never been exposed to anything Cedarville has done. And it's just been a change for a lot of people. To leave the comfort of the NAIA has been a challenge.
The rule book for NAIA may be about 50 pages and the rule book for NCAA is about 500. In NAIA, they kind of just took your word for stuff, and NCAA, you have to show it. And that's probably the biggest change.
There are changes in 3 key areas. Estep and his fellow coaches have a lot more recruiting rules to follow. Second, there's educating the athletes on what they can and cannot do. Then, there are alumni, boosters, and the community. They are Cedarville's biggest challenge.
Especially at Cedarville, there's so much, I'm just being a Christian, I'm being a good person, I'm trying to help someone out, and they don't realize they're jeopardizing eligibility or potentially breaking rules. And it's a longer education process with that group of people.
Yeah, we do this for our brother in need. Now all of a sudden you can't do those things under NCAA, and they would do them for any other student. If somebody needs sheets or something, it's not uncommon for for a faculty member to go buy some stuff for a student. And now all of a sudden for an athlete you can't do that.
But that doesn't mean there aren't ways to help athletes.
There's channels you can help athletes out with by giving to the team and letting the coach find needs. And there's a ton of waivers in NCAA for need-based items like coats or clothes or shoes, and there's a lot of waivers like that that'll help athletes out if they have a need.
The NCAA is very much about institutional control. There's an awful lot of things out there that we just have to find. We have to know about them. We have to be able to document them. And that is going to be the tougher situation. That's the most important thing, rather than just saying, no, you can't do that.
At Cedarville University, I'm Jeff Gilbert. Good evening, I'm Jeff Gilbert with your IUPUI Sports Update. The NFL lockout might end this week just in time for two-a-days. Today in New York, lawyers from both sides continue talks that are expected to lead to a new collective bargaining agreement. The day to pay attention to is Thursday. That's when NFL owners will meet in Atlanta. If there's a new contract by then, the owners could ratify it that day. It does seem like the owners are expecting something to vote on Thursday. The league reportedly sent a memo to all 32 teams, instructing each to send key executives to that meeting. Colts owner Jim Irsay says the Colts are, quote, preparing for any scenario. To basketball, Frank Vogel's staff is finally complete. The Pacers said today they have hired Jim Boylan as the team's third assistant coach. Most recently, Boylan was head coach at the University of Utah, and he has 2 NBA championship rings from his days as an assistant with the Houston Rockets. Boylan will join new associate head coach Brian Shaw and longtime assistant Dan Burke. Earlier this week, Tony Stewart said his team could not afford many more mistakes, or it might not be part of the Sprint Cup chase when the field is set in September. This weekend, Smoke didn't have any mistakes to fret over for Stewart Haas Racing. It was a perfect weekend for 2 Hoosier drivers at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Ryan Newman and Tony Stewart finished the 301-lap race exactly where they started it, first and second. Newman led for the final 72 laps and held on to pick up his first Cup win of the season. Next up, the 2 Hoosier natives will be back home in Indiana for the Brickyard 400 on July 31st at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. For IUPUI Sports, I'm Jeff Gilbert.